How many shares of Tesla stock do you need to retire in 2030? That is exactly what I'm going to figure out in today's video. I will be going over 4 different cases, and that is a bear case, a base case, a bull case, and a super bullish case. The super bullish case is based on famous Tesla investors like Gary Black and Katie Woods. And in each of these cases, I will be giving you the exact amount of shares that you would need in order to retire in 2030. But much more on that later in the video. So please, if you enjoy these videos, then don't forget to smash the like button below. It helps out massively. And if you haven't done already, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more weekly videos about personal finance. So before we start calculating the amount of shares needed, then we first need to figure out how much money we would actually need to retire in 2030. And to do that, I'm using this article here, saying that the average household expenses are $5,577 per month. However, inflation would most likely increase our expenses over time. So assuming an average inflation of 3% per month, then would our total monthly expenses on average be $6,800 per month in 2030. But we also want to have some money to spend on top of our living expenses every single month. So let's assume that we want to use $8,000 per month or $96,000 per year from our investment in 2030 and beyond. Now, using this retirement calculator, we can see that $8,000 per month would last us 40 years if we were to have $1.2 million invested that continuously would grow at 8% per year, which is sort of like the average return for the S&P 500 index. So let's get into the actual calculations for the amount of shares required. At the top here, we see our investment target for 2030 of $1.2 million. We also see the current market value of Tesla, which is $574 billion. They currently have 3 million outstanding shares, and the current share price as of today is $181. And just keep in mind here that Tesla is a company that has performed very well for many years now. They have outperformed the analyst prediction year after year, and the chance of them continuing to do so is probably very high. So starting with the bear case, here I'm assuming a growth rate of 8%. And also keep in mind that Tesla has dropped by 31% over the last year. So the chance of them growing rapidly within the next 1 or 2 years is most likely very high as well. When having a growth rate of 8%, then in 2030, the total market value for Tesla will be $975 billion. And that gives a price per share in 2030 of $309. And now, in order to find the amount of Tesla shares required to retire in 2030, then we simply divide the 1.2 million with the $309 per share, and that gives us 3,889 shares in total. And the total cost today for retiring in 2030 in this scenario is only $597,000. And yes, I know that this number might seem like a lot, but just wait until you get to the bull case and the super bullish case. The results there are most likely going to surprise you. So moving on to the base case scenario. Here you see that we have a growth rate of 15%, which again would be considered very low by a lot of Tesla investors. However, I would rather be conservative than be negatively surprised by 2030. So assuming a growth rate of 15%, then in 2030 we get a total market value of $1.5 trillion. And that gives us a total price per share of $487. And that means that in order to retire in 2030 from our Tesla investment, then we would need 2,464 stocks. And the total cost of that today would only be $444,000. And already now you can start to see the big difference between getting a higher return per year. In the bear case scenario, you would actually need $150,000 more invested today in order to retire in 2030. But now it is time for the bull case, and the results here are most likely going to surprise you. And in this scenario, I'm actually assuming a 20% growth rate, but when considering their past performance, their extremely high growth potential, their competitive advantages, their high profit margin, their plans to expand, and without going much into detail, then I think it is very safe to say that Tesla most likely has a very bright future. So a 20% yearly growth rate until 2030 is not completely insane. And very many famous Tesla investors would most likely have doubled that number in a bullish case. But with a 20% growth rate, then will the total market value for Tesla in 2030 be $2 trillion. And that gives us a total price per share of $671. And that means that we would only need 1,788 stocks in order to retire in 2030 when having a 20% yearly growth rate. And the total cost of that today would only be $324,000. And that is all you need in order to retire in 2030. Okay, so now it's time for the super bullish predictions made by Gary Black and Cathie Woods. They have both recently said that their predictions for 2030 is a total market value for Tesla of $4 trillion. And remember that in my bull case, I had a market value for Tesla of $2.1 trillion. So they almost believe by 2030 that Tesla will have double that value. But let's get to the numbers because this is going to surprise the majority of you. So in order to reach a market value for Tesla in 2030 of $4 trillion, then they would actually need an average annual growth rate of 32%. And that is absolutely insane to think about. However, assuming that their predictions will actually be true, well, then will the total share price for Tesla in 2030 be $1,269. And that means that in the super bullish case, you would actually only need 947 shares in order to retire in 2030. And the total cost for that today would only be $171,000. And that is, if their predictions is true, the only thing that you would need to retire and then spend 40 years in retirement. I'm of course not sure that these predictions will hold for Tesla. However, these two persons have previously made some predictions about the future price of Tesla, and these predictions have also been very, very bullish, and the majority of them have actually been correct. But that was all I had in today's video. I hope that you liked the video. If you did, then don't forget to smash the like button below the video and subscribe to my channel for more weekly content. See you guys in the next one.